important concepts about being a lawyer is that you don't have to agree with your client in order to represent him. That's really important in criminal law, especially, even though it's sometimes hard to understand. I mean, if someone is charged with an absolutely odious and brutal crime, we're repulsed by him and those connected to him. And imagine some lawyer who's actually trying to keep him free by any legal means, any detail, any technicality or loophole. How could we not hate such a lawyer too? I mean, imagine being the lawyers who defended Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. Just atrocious. Or if you're not old enough to remember them, think about someone who didn't commit murder but did gross things. Just think about Jian Ghomeshi, the serial abuser, violent thug, who used his CBC show as a sort of a dating service, a pipeline to gather impressionable young women, and then he'd ask them out on dates, and then he'd take them back to his place, and he would punch them in the face. He would choke them and beat them again and again, and the CBC heard about it, and they helped cover it up. Imagine being that scumbag's lawyer. Well, Marie Henein is her name, probably the best criminal lawyer in Toronto, and she defended this sick thug, and she got him off. Oh, sorry, bad choice of words. And some feminists attacked her for that. But she was right and they were wrong. I mean, obviously Henein is not for beating women. She's for the idea of innocent until proven guilty, that everyone deserves a lawyer. In fact, it's a civil right, and the system needs it. Both sides need to be argued in a zealous way, no stone left unturned, and then a neutral, unbiased judge or jury weighs it on a scale. And if we don't believe an accused criminal deserves a lawyer, and a good lawyer at that, then why bother even having a trial? I mean, if you're so certain, well, just convict him. No. One of the fundamental features of our legal system is to hear both sides of the story. In Latin, there's a phrase, audi alterum partem. Hear the other side first. Hear the other side first. Okay, thank you for indulging that little detour. Don't judge a lawyer by his clients. I think you could probably say the same thing about other professions too, like a doctor. A doctor treats someone, even if they're a bad person. That's sort of what doctors do. Someone gets shot up in a drug gang war, you still treat them at the hospital. I think you have an ethical obligation. Now, this image here is a little bit hard to see, but it's a New York Times story from about 30 years ago. The headline, if you can make it out, is "A Klansman's Black Lawyer and a Principal." Just FYI, civil liberties groups like the ACLU used to send black lawyers and Jewish lawyers to defend the KKK. And I think they made the point beautifully. It's what I was saying about Marie Henein, to indicate that they obviously didn't support the anti-black and anti-Jewish views of their clients. They were there to defend free speech on principle, and also to support the principle that everyone has the right to a lawyer, even if they're wrong, even if they are a criminal. In fact, those are the ones who need a lawyer the most. Okay, there you have it. And I tell you all that, even though I think you probably knew it, because you can represent someone without agreeing with them. If you know the law, if you're an officer of the court, if you're a doctor, whatever, you should help someone navigate those systems. It's actually your duty. But how about representing someone, associating with someone, promoting someone, not in the law, not when their life or liberty hangs on it, not when they're charged by the government with a crime, not when you could save them from injustice or even imprisonment. But how about when you just choose to affiliate with them and choose to associate with them, not out of a love for justice, but because you're being paid a ton of money? And when you're not selling your knowledge of legal precedents and legal procedures, but rather you're selling your connections and your influence, no special professional skills, no technical knowledge. You're being retained by someone because you used to be a senior politician, so you know who's who in Ottawa, who's who in politics, in the permanent civil service. You have a private reputation in the form of connections to insiders, and you have a public reputation in that some of the public trusts you because you served in high office and you built up a certain reputation. What if you're renting out that reputation now? And not to save someone from prison, but just to get rich, to get them rich, and they'll pay you to pump their tires, to help them get what they want politically. Is it different then? I think it's very different. I want to talk for a minute with Gerald Butts, Trudeau's closest advisor and his friend since university days. Butts was the one, as you know, who interfered with the SNC-Lavalin prosecution. Just to refresh your memory, it was a big company, very corrupt, notorious for paying bribes to get government contracts in Canada and around the world. Just awful, based in Quebec. And they were being prosecuted by the Canadian government for a massive corruption case, which they admitted to, by the way. How could they deny it? They didn't deny it. And Gerald Butts kept pressuring, when he was working for Trudeau, he was pressuring the Justice Department to drop the prosecution, pressuring them to cut a deal, to stop the trial. I wonder if he was worried about certain facts coming out. I mean, who knows? Maybe other Quebec politicians had taken bribes from SNC-Lavalin. Of course they did. And maybe Gerald Butts didn't want that to come out in court. I don't know. So Butts interfered with a live criminal court case. He tried to get it scuppered. He tried to get it thrown out. He kept harassing Jody Wilson-Raybould, Trudeau's most ethical justice minister. And in the end, she was fired from her position because she wouldn't go along with this. And then she quit cabinet over it. Gerald Butts was trying to rig a trial. That's straight out of a Sopranos episode, the mafia trying to get a friend out of trouble. He tried to pressure the prosecutors to drop criminal charges against Trudeau's friends. He was rightly thrown out of the PMO for that, into a very soft landing, I should say, by something called the Eurasia Group, a New York City lobby firm where he had directed sole source contracts. That's pretty convenient. So he actually was exiled from the country in a way, which is a shame because he should have been prosecuted, I think, for what he did. He was disgraced, but he's being rehabilitated now. He's being normalized now, while Jody Wilson-Raybould, the most honest woman in cabinet in a generation, is being marginalized. When was the last time you even heard from her? That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called the Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.